6'3". I can honestly say in my, well, I've had about a couple of years, maybe close to 3 now here at Wave 3, on and off the air, and one of my most interesting guests is this gentleman to my left, Kerry Thomas, who wrote a book on horse profiling. This is the second book, The Secret of Motivating Equine Athletes. And Kerry Thomas, there's a special love and affinity for horse racing and horses in general in this part of the country, as you know.
Yes.
With that being said, you take it to another level. Horse profiling. Usually here, when we're looking at Derby horses, we're talking about the physical attributes. Your game is entirely different. Entirely different. Tell us about it.
Well, one of the things I focus on, the only thing I really focus on, is their emotional confirmation, their emotional fitness, their mental aptitude, and how that affects their performance. How is the pilot managing and driving this machine?
Now, you studied wild horses in herding, and you watched them very closely, and you can actually apply this to business, which I find is fascinating. In fact, for Derby, you're a guest of the Humana Company.
Yes,
right?
Yes, I'm very happy to be here with Humana. I've done some speaking engagements with Humana over the last year or so on innovation and leadership and emotional wellness. And so I'm here for them this week and very happy to be here.
Let's talk about some of the attributes that translate to humans as well as horses, things you look for. You're saying emotional confirmation. What does that mean exactly?
Well, I think from a business standpoint is really the behavioral economics. The economics of behavior makes sense. How are we interpreting the environment? How are we responding to the environment? What's our presence? A key thing to always remember with horses, it's very, very clear chain of command and communication from the hierarchy down through, because the information is not tainted as it's delivered. But how information is delivered affects how it's received. And this is a key thing for us to remember in business and leadership, as well as when we're doing emotional wellness programs. Whether you're talking about for the wounded warrior, emotional wellness, the autistic child, or creating an environment for the athlete, identifying the key ingredients of who they are. That emotional confirmation is where everything stems from.
Well, let's talk about this. I'd really do a disservice to our viewers if I didn't ask you this. What separates a champion horse from just a has-been, a journeyman horse? For instance, I think someone like Secretariat likes winning. I'm giving them, human attributes or a human mindset. Yeah. I think they like winning. I think they like the attention. What really does separate the great horses from the also-rans?
Well, the higher-level horses, they manage and control the space. They manage and control the other horse's space. They will come in, take over, and go on to the next one. That they feed off of that energy. They can manage chaos very easily and very smoothly. They have no behavioral overcompensations. They can interpret the stimuli. They make their intentions felt. They have presence.
Okay.
And presence in space while in motion is one of the key ingredients to successful horses.
I heard you say a word there, chaos. Certainly Kentucky Derby, with all the excitement in the paddock area, these horses are having to handle something they've never seen before. There's a whole other level of adrenaline.
Yeah.
With that being said, what should we look for if we're in the paddock area? We're thinking about putting a couple of dollars down on a horse. What should you look for in a horse?
For me, it comes down to the horses that we don't always notice. The horses that are calm, collective, they're interpreting their environment very easily, very smoothly without having to react to it. They can identify what's going on around them, but they're not reacting to it.
They're not letting it get the best of them.
Other than what's going on. Now, especially when there's this many horses at play, I like the horses that can manage the multiple stimuli, what they see and what they can't see. With equal, I want a horse that doesn't have to rely on my eye to identify what my ear is telling me.
Can you see nobility in a horse? Can you tell when a horse has that kind of presence?
Without a doubt.
Without no question.
Without a doubt.
All right. You're going to the races with me, right?
Well, we can make that happen, probably.
Let's talk about your book, Horse Profiling, The Secret to Motivating Equine Athletes. And there are some applications here for business owners, people who are managers. I'm telling you, where would they find this book? How can this is really, truly, I'm not just saying this, folks, fascinating. Where would they find your book, Kerry?
They can find it anywhere. I mean, you can Google it and find it. But, if you go to my website, ThomasHerdingTechnique.com, and you go to our store link, I'm actually signing a whole plethora of books that we can ship out personally signed to you.
All right.
But you can find it on Amazon. You can find obviously all the normal locations.
I wish I could dedicate an entire show to you because you're a fascinating man. I can understand why Humana or other businesses would be interested in having you speak. So, with that being said, get his book, Horse Profiling, Kerry Thomas. We highly recommend it. It's Derby Week. Bring it out for your guest. I'll be right back on Wave 3 Listens.